Hello and welcome back to the Kimi Career on F1 2018. Today we go to the Principality of Monaco for the 6th race of the 2018 Formula 1 season. And the championship order is possibly what you might not expect going into this 6th race of the season. Both of the championship protagonists being beaten by their teammates so far. There is a caveat in that both Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton have had one DNF. And both of the Red Bull drivers have had one DNF also. I think all through mechanical failure so far. So ourselves, Kimi Raikkonen and Valtteri Bottas, the only drivers in the top 6 to have finished every race so far. That DNF for Vettel came in the last race at Spain. We were leading the Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel was sat in P2 and there was a possibility of a Ferrari 1-2. Vettel then broke down, gave Bottas P2 and Lewis Hamilton P3 in the end. But it's been a disappointing start for Lewis Hamilton, as we covered in the last episode. He's got a lot of ground to make up. He's already 61 points behind Valtteri Bottas. Valtteri Bottas having a really strong start to this Grand Prix season. 2 wins on the board so far and 3 podiums. But the big thing for us is that we took our first win in the last race at the Circuit of Catalonia. So we've had 4 race winners so far this season. Daniel Ricciardo won the first race at Australia. Then it was Bottas in Bahrain and China. Sebastian Vettel in the 4th race in Baku. And then us, Kimi Raikkonen in Spain. So Lewis Hamilton still not picking up a win yet this season and only 2 podiums in 3rd place. Monaco is going to be an extremely tough race, I expect. I've done some time trial, had some adventures into the wall, so I hope that we don't repeat that in qualifying or the race today. I feel like it's going to be similar-ish to Baku in that we just need to get round, but ultimately, as every F1 fan knows, this race is really all about qualifying. Ooh, that's a big one. Fortunately, that's only in practice. Not in the qualifying session, but that is what happens when you push it too close to the walls here in Monaco. Let's just see a replay of the accident we've had in practice there. Just turned it a bit too early into the swimming pool chicane. And that's how quickly it can happen here at Monaco. That's how quickly a race can end potentially. The car is done for practice. Going to have to retire from this practice session. I wanted to get a few laps in just on a heavier tank of fuel, just to see how we'd perform in the race, really. And it does seem like front turning is very, very difficult, particularly at those tight bends and quite inconsistent. Our pace, not too bad, to be fair there, though. 3 tenths behind Sebastian Vettel. That's our only real marker, because all the other guys have been on different tyres. Ultrasoft's being used. That HS, is that a Hypersoft? I kind of remember a Hypersoft being used, maybe, but not particularly. But Daniel Ricciardo, Fernando Alonso, Max Verstappen top of the practice session. I don't really know what's going to happen in qualifying, because it is just one of those tracks that if you get a good lap, then great. But it feels like it could be a little bit like this. It could be a bit of a mixed up grid. Fortunately, there's no rain forecast to jeopardise the weekend in that way. But as I said in the introduction, qualifying is going to be the main part of this weekend. We need to get a lap in, and preferably don't end that session like we did the practice session up in the wall. Oh, blimey. Well, again, we were on a decent lap, to be fair, in qualifying. We might as well finish it. We're going to be nowhere. We might as well get a lap in nevertheless, just to set a time. But that is how easy a qualifying lap round Monaco can go wrong. Oh, blimey. We're looking pretty decent, at least in the first sector. We were a couple of attempts ahead of Valtteri Bottas, who'd set the overall top lap time. If we look at the first 2 sectors, those are going to be the representative ones, of course. So, up at the top is Sebastian Vettel so far, with a very strong lap of 1:10.6, certainly compared to the rest. And you've got Hulkenberg P4 at the moment, so it was an 18.6, 33.5 from Seb. 18.6, 33.5, that's a big lap from Sebastian Vettel, isn't it? 33.5, so he's 6 tenths quicker than us in that sector. Sergei Sorokin with the fastest sector 1. Interesting, but yeah, we need to get round safely, I think. That's the biggest thing here. And just the slightest of touches to the wall, it's going to be difficult for us to get through the race here. We've only done 3 laps. 2 of those has ended us up in the wall. We've got to get out there, I think, pretty much straight away. We can reduce the fuel in the car slightly, get out there straight away again, and get a second lap in. But really, our first representative lap surely Yeah, that's fine. Fernando Alonso hasn't gone slower than us. I was thinking, blimey, is there really someone who's gone slower than us? But no, we're okay. So this one needs to be a representative lap this time. Well, our second lap was another scruffy one. We nipped the wall just outside the Lowe's hairpin and we couldn't improve on our previous time. So all of a sudden, the pressure is massively on. We've got 6 minutes left in this qualifying session as we exit the pits for the third time. We have put a bit more fuel in so we can potentially do two flying laps here. I mean, if we start P19, that's an absolute disaster. So, honestly, that second lap that I did off camera there, the point was just to try and get round safely, just to get a lap time in at least. And even with that, we nipped the wall outside the Lowe's hairpin. This is such a tricky track to get round in qualifying setting. I've changed the front wing angle up. I am using a custom setup here, like in previous races. We used one from China onwards. And it seems that even that setup, I think it was front wing angle of 10 rather than 11. And even that was difficult. This Lowe's hairpin, I mean, unless you take a lot of inside curb there, it's so difficult to get round that corner with any pace at all. Daniel Ricciardo, though, has just gone top of the session. So it could be a Red Bull pole here. Red Bull have got a pretty good record round this Monaco circuit. Who knows? Let's see if we can do it the hard way. And on our last gasp lap here, try and put it in pole position. I doubt we can, but ultimately the higher up the grid we get, we don't want to be behind any back markers, and that really applies to the same to the likes of Nico Hülkenberg as well. It feels like we're going to lose time massively in the race if we're behind the Renault. Well, we've got through what should be the danger zones. We took it a bit cautiously this lap. I don't know what the Hypersoft's like for wear. We haven't got time really to worry about that. We've got to get another lap in, but this is going to be our first representative lap of the session. I'll tell you something, it's not looking good. It's only P13. Oh god, it's this lap or nothing then now. This should be a better effort. Looking briefly at the top of the screen when I had a second to focus around this fast and furious Monaco track, we were about 6/10 up. We're coming to the last corner. We might have time for a third lap, but I don't expect it's going to be anything else. And we go P3. That is much better. Phew. I think that's going to be it from us, though. Lance Stroll's come out the pits here, and Stroll just isn't... Well, he does get out of the way, but that's it for this session. I think we're not going to have the fuel anyway to set another lap, but it's a best of P3 here, just in behind Sebastian Vettel. But to be honest, that's not bad damage limitation, considering after that horrible third lap, we were only in P12 or 13. I think we got relegated to 14 in the end, so I'll quite happily take P3 here, and at the moment at least, it looks like we've beat the two Mercedes, but there is time yet for them to set a final flying lap. But if we end up P3 or similar, I'm quite happy with that. It's Daniel Ricciardo's second pole position of the season. This time, though, it's not a rain-affected session. That is on pure pace. And you can see for the first time, there is a bit of a gap between all of the drivers. Admittedly, in the midfield, it is very close. But the big headline, again, is that this is just turning into a season to forget for Lewis Hamilton. In a track where qualifying is huge, Lewis has only qualified P9. He's behind Carlos Sainz, Romain Grosjean and Nico Hülkenberg. He doesn't want that at all. Max Verstappen's P5. As I alluded to earlier, we have beat Valtteri Bottas. Only just, though, that 10th of a second that we gained there was massive. If we didn't get another 10th of a second, we'd have been in P5. And you can see, obviously, with that, I think it was 1:12.9. That would have put us down in 16th or 17th in the end there. So it was massively significant for our weekend, not just the qualifying session, but for the weekend that we managed to get that lap in at the end and end up P3. A solid qualifying from Sebastian Vettel in P2. I don't know what's going to change during the race. If we hold station and it stays like this, it's a very good weekend for Ferrari. We only lose 3 points to Seb, which isn't anything major. We gain on Valtteri Bottas. But again, Lewis Hamilton had given himself a massive amount to do in the race. And he's already 61 points behind his teammates. If he falls much further behind, I think, well, it's already almost turning into that. We know how good Lewis can be, but it is very much turning into, like Mercedes, have only got one challenger. And if we can continue the challenge with both of our drivers, then that gives us a real advantage into the Constructors' Championship.
It looks like it could be a tense round of the championship here as we prepare to get today's race underway.
Okay, don't try anything silly into one. It's going to be crazy in there. Just do your best to stay out of trouble.
Thanks for the pep talk. Oh dear. Right, it's going to be a one-stop here. We know all about that. I think we should try and come in as late as possible because you're not going to get much of a field spread by lap 5, and getting held up is not going to help our race at all. We know that, I mean, looking at that, pitting on lap 6 is actually a bit quicker. Pitting on lap 7 is going to make our race only 2/10 slower, but again, with traffic, nothing drastic. You can see the tyre wear is probably about 5 or 6% a lap. I think we'll set it to lap 7 for now, try and stay out for as long as we can, noting that we might have an earlier pit stop, and obviously we'll let the team know so we don't double stack and have any risk of that. I did think potentially about switching up the strategy and starting on the ultra softs, but I don't think I want to mess things up too much and go too contrarian. Ultimately today is all about getting over the line and finishing, as Anthony Davidson said in the introduction. Whether I included that or not, we'll find that all out in the editing process. It is the natural habitat of the safety car. It might have been Crofty actually who said that. But yeah, it's going to be difficult down into turn 1, as our engineers said, you know, not to frighten us any more than we potentially are, because the AI are pretty frenetic on this game. There's no doubt about that their aggression is pretty high. Try our best to stay out of trouble. I think it's a bit like Baku. We're going to struggle to stay out of trouble. Our reflexes are going to be pretty good, because if there's an incident ahead of us, that is a problem. If we finish how we start, Ricciardo P1, he's not a danger in the championship really. Seb P2, I'd be pretty happy with that result, noting as well that Lewis Hamilton is a long way down the grid. But it wouldn't be any fun for this just to be a procession, I guess. There is going to be some drama. Not going to get my elbows out too much, but equally, if the other drivers behind start to get their elbows out, we saw that with Valtteri Bottas in the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, we will respond. Here we go then for the Monaco Grand Prix. Got to keep it clean at the start here, that's the main thing. The lights are out for the Monaco Grand Prix. We've had a good start this time actually, but we don't do too much coming up into the first corner. Valtteri Bottas is on our inside. We've got to give him the room here, and Valtteri Bottas looks to have jumped as we go up the next straight. And yeah, we didn't want to do anything too drastic there. Ricciardo and Vettel have pulled away quite significantly. We could have been stronger in defending that position, but Bottas had got the race in line and we didn't want to do too much to distract from that. And again, if we lose out to Bottas today, it's 3 points. It's not a significant loss. Certainly not as significant at all as, say, losing 12 points from having a crash, a race-ending incident. There's a yellow flag behind. Wonder if there's been potentially an incident, but the 3 drivers ahead have romped away already. I didn't think we'd have much of a field spread, but it seems we have already had a bit of that. Max Verstappen's right on our rear end. The main thing is that we don't get succumbed into the pressure of making a mistake. Ultimately, this is going to be another one, I think, a little bit like Baku, where we just have to survive. Well, there's a safety car deployed. There's a big gap behind us, so I do wonder whether that's something to do with Max Verstappen in behind. There's always a potential of having a safety car here at the Grand Prix in Monaco. And that is exactly what's happened. So, that pit strategy, I mean, it's too early to come into the pits now, surely. Max Verstappen is out of the race, so the Red Bull suffers his second retirement of the season. I don't think we had anything to do with it. We'll find out at the end of the race. He was pretty close in behind us, was Max, so maybe he tried to go up the inside at the last corner. I'm not sure. I know he was pretty close to us, but I didn't see anything as such. But we'll see what happened after the race. So that makes things interesting. Let's see how Lewis Hamilton started. Lewis has started pretty decently, actually. He's up to P6. That has been helped, no doubt, by the Verstappen incident. So Max Verstappen had terminal damage, but I would guess more than anything it was a crash that led to that terminal damage, possibly. Again, I don't want to speculate too much here. But given he was behind us, I don't know if we were involved. We'll see that a bit later on. But this is going to be a bit of a lull in the race while we have this safety car. So everybody's in. Well, I guess we have to follow. If that's what everybody's doing, then surely we just have to follow along. But it's only the top 3 that have come in. Oh, man. Well, I thought everybody would have come in, but that's clearly not the case. Oh, man. Look at that. Well, let's see what everybody else has done. The other guys in front. So, Ultra Softs for Ricciardo, Ultra Softs for Seb, Ultra Softs for Bottas. Well, we've dropped to the back of the field here. That's one of the reasons why I didn't particularly want to do it in the first place. Got a long way to go now on these tyres. But I guess we are... well, I am a bit worried about field spread here, I have to say. Feels like we could have just destroyed our race. The only reason I came in is because I thought everybody was going to do the same. And as a result, nobody would be pitting for the rest of the race. And then, you know, we wouldn't be able to get through the field. But, oh, I don't know. I really don't know about this. What's done is done, though, now. I mean, it's going to be Carlos Sainz leading the race. So at least you are going to get somewhat of a bottleneck, you would have thought, behind the Renault driver. But after that, Lewis Hamilton has probably all of a sudden gone from really struggling in this Grand Prix to probably the favourite to win. Well, that was quick. The safety car wasn't out for long. It's coming in at the end of this lap 3. And that makes things worse for us because we're going to be held up behind these drivers for longer. I don't know if we made the wrong decision here by pitting in. Ultimately, we had to go with what the drivers ahead of us did. And could that be our failure? Of course, we can't overtake yet. But what they do say, the common phrase, is that safety cars breed safety cars. So we could have another one. So we've lost about 3 seconds on that lap because Lewis Hamilton's fastest lap was a 1:13. We've set a 1:16 there. So you can see that the lap times aren't great being behind this group. It's been deemed Pierre Gasly's got a problem. And you can see he's holding up Charles Leclerc significantly. Oh, that's not going to help us out at all. Who would have thought the 2 championship protagonists so far, first and second in the championship, would be second, last and last in the field. So I think we've got some guys dropping into the pit lane from what I've seen. It's only a few though, there's not many drivers coming in. It's only Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hülkenberg. Pierre Gasly isn't one of those, and Pierre is losing a massive amount of time to those guys in front. I don't think Lewis has set a new fastest lap, so you can only assume it's only 4 seconds we've lost there. But Pierre Gasly has lost the position to Charles Leclerc, and we've just gone up the inside of Valtteri Bottas. We make a bit of contact. But that is a nice move that I didn't really expect. It was almost we just took the pace into the corner and went for it. But now we've got to trying to get past Pierre Gasly as our aim because he's obviously got a problem. He's losing a lot of time just to the drivers in front. And you can see through the corners we are really gaining on Pierre Gasly. We are touching the back of his car. Can we get something done into the next chicane? Hopefully Pierre Gasly sees us up the inside. But he's got the inside into this corner. We bang wheels with Pierre Gasly. We're going to have to give him the room going into that chicane. I think that could have been an illegal overtake, but the stewards don't deem it as so. We left him enough racing room in fairness, but we still made the move on Pierre Gasly. So Valtteri Bottas, the big loser in all of that. A few more drivers come into the pits at the end of this lap, so we are a net P3 P3 as we started. Valtteri Bottas got us at the end of the first lap. We're not being jumped, I don't think, by any of them. Is that Carlos Sainz coming into the pits? That is good to see that we've jumped Carlos Sainz. So I don't think we should have much threat against Lewis Hamilton. The gap to first place just come up at the bottom of the screen. I didn't quite see what that gap was. But we're 7th place at the moment. Leclerc and Sorokin, I know, in front have got to come in. So we're at least 5th. So I think it's worked out okay for us. So we've been running in clean air for a few laps now. Charles Leclerc and co pitted, I think, at the end of lap 7. So we are back in P3 as we expected to be. So that early pit strategy didn't cause us any sort of disaster. But we haven't got the pace of the front runners. We are 10 seconds behind Sebastian Vettel and Daniel Ricciardo. That gap was 7 at the end of the previous lap. So we're losing a massive amount of time. The Renaults are gaining on the training that we might start to be pulling. Remembering, of course, that we are on old tyres compared to those behind. So it's going to be a difficult race. The main aim for us today is just to keep Valtteri Bottas behind. Jesus! Valtteri Bottas whacks us in the rear end there. I think that might have to go to an insurance claim. Let's have a look at that on the flashback. Did we just brake early there? He had a right thump from the back with Valtteri Bottas. It wasn't actually as bad as it seemed from our point of view there. But Valtteri Bottas, I think, has lost a bit of his front wing. There was certainly some component coming off what I think was the Mercedes car there. It must have been. Yeah, there you go. I think it's that end plate on the left. You see that IWC logo? That all of a sudden vanishes from the Mercedes car. But that could have been a lot nastier. We braked early there. Haven't got a lot of confidence, I'll say, this weekend. But that's not going to help Valtteri Bottas' race, losing a bit of his front wing. Well, that damage hasn't helped Valtteri Bottas. He's now outside the DRS zone. So hopefully the pressure will be off a little bit from Valtteri Bottas just in behind us. Sebastian Vettel, though, is running right next to Daniel Ricciardo. I just don't think you can make really any sort of race-winning moves here at Monaco. You can see in the mini-map that Vettel is just behind Danny Rick. He's 15 seconds ahead of us, so we're way out of the chance of winning this race. But look at that that train behind Valtteri Bottas. This is what often happens here at Monaco. And knowing that Valtteri Bottas has got a bit of damage, there's no point in him coming in the pits, is there? For some reason it keeps saying that we've moved up a position. I don't know why that is. But Valtteri Bottas, if he stays there, it's going to be his first time not on the podium this year. It's going to end his streak of 5 podiums in a row, which will help us out in the Drivers' Championship. From a tyre wear point of view, I think things look okay. I was nervous about that when we pitted early on in this race. Tyre wear's only at 20% after probably 9 or 10 laps of full running here, so I don't think there's going to be any danger till the end of the race with that. Well, the damage that Valtteri Bottas has got himself into with that lost end plate has put him a long way behind us. It was 6.2 seconds over the line. That gap has probably gone up even more now. It is 7.1. So we're under absolutely no danger from the guys behind. The guys in front are a world away. So it looks like it's just going to be a quiet race here at Monaco to P3 as long as we keep the car out of the walls. There was no change after the last highlight, so Daniel Ricciardo picks up his and Red Bull's second win of the Grand Prix season. Sebastian Vettel finishes second, ourselves in third to secure another podium. There's no doubt that we would have been under a lot more pressure had Valtteri Bottas not lost that end plate. He finished a good 14-15 seconds behind us in the end. So Mercedes, the big losers today, no question about that. We get 33 points on the board. Valtteri Bottas also we gained 3 points on the fin. Sebastian Vettel gains 6 points. But it's Daniel Ricciardo with his second win of the season. It's been a mixed season for Daniel Ricciardo so far. He's had 2 wins, he's had a DNF. He's going to be there or thereabouts in the championship, but ultimately not consistent enough so far to set up a championship race for him. So it's going to be 3 drivers, I think, in this championship battle. Lewis Hamilton has had a horrible start, continued by this Monaco Grand Prix, where I would guess he finished 7th or 8th, possibly. Let's have a look once everything finishes. Yep, it was P8 for him. Valtteri Bottas only ended up P6 in the end. Wow, so that must have been a last gasp overtake by Carlos Sainz and Nico Hülkenberg, and it's been a brilliant weekend for Renault, picking up 4th and 5th. So Valtteri Bottas has lost even more ground in the championship after only finishing P6 there. You can see we were absolute way behind, 27 seconds ahead of behind a Sebastian Vettel. But that is a real shock with Valtteri Bottas dropping down to P6 on the final lap. I wondered possibly whether it was a penalty, but it doesn't seem like that. And in terms of the race director, there weren't any incidents for Valtteri Bottas. He got a warning for that incident he had with us early on in the race. Let's see how that leaves the championship standings. Well, Sebastian Vettel has got past us, that's no surprise. But we've reduced our arrears now to Valtteri Bottas to only 17 points and 15 for Sebastian Vettel. So the prancing horses are breathing down that silver arrow of Valtteri Bottas. And Lewis Hamilton, he's got enough points to make himself number 44 now. But God, is he a long way behind. And just showing how poor a start Max Verstappen had, he's behind Nico Hülkenberg in that battle. And that's why really Red Bull aren't having a sniff in the Constructors. Max Verstappen just hasn't scored the points so far. Renault continuing their stronghold on 4th place, but that's a nice gap we've got now to Mercedes, 33 points in the Constructors' Championship. Further down then today, Romain Grosjean retains P7 to make it 6 points for the American team. Double points haul for Sergio Perez and Esteban Ocon for Force India, making it 2 and 1, 9th and 10th for those guys. But crucially, the final thing, let's have a look how Max Verstappen's race ended. Well, this is the end of the first lap, and that is indeed us next to Max Verstappen, so I must have just completely missed this at the time. I might show it over the top in the editing process, but I'm fearing now that we just turn in on Max Verstappen. Well, I guess his front tyre is ahead of our rear tyre, but this is only going to end one way, isn't it? Max in the wall and out of the Grand Prix. I mean, I just didn't pick that up at the time at all. Oh dear, that is a little bit embarrassing for us. But that's why Max Verstappen was out of the Grand Prix. Oh dear, that's a classic. And obviously Max Verstappen being out there was no way through for the guys behind. Carlos Sainz was pulled up behind him. There was no choice but to have a safety car there. That is a little bit embarrassing for us. But to be fair, was that our fault? To an extent. Well, we can watch what happened in this point rather than putting it over the edit. Yeah, I mean, Max Verstappen's front tyre was in touch with our... his front was in touch with our rear tyre. We didn't really give him racing room there. I mean, he could have possibly backed out when we come to that point, but ultimately that would have caused a collision. It is difficult to know, really, but I guess we could put that down to our fault. But ultimately the stewards haven't deemed that to be our fault, so we just go away going, oh, well, Max is in the wall, and I don't know why. But, yeah, it was a battle with us. I completely missed that in the grand scheme of things. But that's the Monaco Grand Prix. Not the most exciting Grand Prix today, probably because we put Max Verstappen in the wall, but... oh well, we still end up P3 in the end here. We've gained on Valtteri Bottas. The big news is that Lewis Hamilton has lost even more ground, and it's not a good day for the Mercedes cars at all. Fortunately for us, we stayed out of trouble. I say that very much through gritted teeth, and get a double podium for the Ferrari team. It's a very good day for Renault as well in the midfield battle, but it's Daniel Ricciardo who's going to be spraying the champagne after winning the Monaco Grand Prix. I think the next race should be a little bit easier for us round Canada. The main thing today was just getting round in one piece, which we did for all intents and purposes. So thank you for your company today for the Monaco Grand Prix. We'll be back soon for the Canadian Grand Prix. Thank you for your company today, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye for now.